Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 154 of the show, and before we get started, I'm going to do a little bit of house cleaning real quick, because, well, you guys know I always like to do it around here, and it only makes sense that we keep doing it because, well, you guys like the house cleaning. Granted, I know some of you probably just skip through these episodes anyways just to get past this stuff, but I think it's also important that we actually do the house cleaning because, it's just house cleaning, It's just, covering the basics, because there are some things I want to mention. I do want to thank you guys for coming back and listening to today's episode. It really does mean a lot to me. You guys constantly keep taking time out of your days to listen to these episodes, to download these episodes, to share these episodes, to constantly let me know how you guys feel about them. Whether you are watching the video version or you're watching the audio version of the show, even though I say watching, I really mean you're listening to the audio version because, well, if you're listening to the audio version, you can't really see my face. You can only hear my voice. And if you're watching the video version on YouTube, then you can see everything. So you get to see the setup and everything and blah, blah, blah. So I do thank you guys for that. I really do appreciate you guys constantly take time out of your days to download these episodes, share these episodes, constantly keep letting me know how you feel about the topics because you guys play a very integral role in this entire process because, well, you guys vote on the episodes. So you guys do play a big part. So I thank you guys for that. I do also want to say that it's kind of a sad day here in the studio a little bit because, like, my headphones that I always use to record these episodes, my Sennheisers, are starting to be, derpy, and I'm kind of sad. So now I have to use my Audio Technicas, which people are like, oh, boo-hoo. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, it kind of sucks. They're my favorite pair of headphones. They hold a lot of sentimental value to me because, well, they're the headphones I started the show with. So it kind of sucks to see that they're, shitting the bed. And to me, that just sucks. So I'm seeing what I can do to, what can we do? And just go from there, I guess, But I do also want to say that thank you guys for being patient with me. I know that episodes are going to be a little bit slower now due to school starting up. And as I've already mentioned, school will always be my number one priority because, well, that's what I want is my school, my education is more important to me. Even though, yes, I really love doing the show because to me, the show is a good way to relax. It's a good way to unwind. It's a good way to share a lot of the things that are on my mind regarding technology, regarding business, regarding the video game industry, and just letting you guys know how I feel about these things because you guys obviously care about them too because you guys play a role in voting the topics. So I do thank you guys for that. Thank you for continuing to be patient with me. I do also want to say thank you to the Patreon backers. You guys are great. Thank you. I greatly appreciate you. And if you want to become a Patreon backer, you can obviously click the links down below and become one today. Now, it's time that we get on to today's episode because I did this episode, I think it was July 12th of 2019, talking about the state of the smartphone industry. And it is interesting on how much things have changed in the course of a year. Granted, it hasn't been 2 years because we haven't hit July of 2021 yet, but it's amazing to see how much things have changed in 2020 and how things are going in 2021 right now so far. So I think it's only fair that we do another update of this episode. But the difference with this episode is that I'm going to be sharing my viewpoints on how I feel about the smartphone industry, where do I feel like things are going, addressing a lot of the concerns that people have, because there definitely are a lot of new complications or new concerns people have going forward in the smartphone space. And we should also acknowledge a lot of the good changes that have come. So I do feel like I want to leave this very open-ended because I want to expand this with other guests and let other guests share their insight on the matter and see how do they see things differently, because that's important, is perspective. Everybody's going to have a different perspective. Everybody's going to have a different viewpoint on things. They're going to have a different opinion on the matters. And that's what's important, is letting people share those kind of inputs so that it gives you a broader space, because you're expanding your viewpoint. You're not just limited to your own perspective. And I think that's important. So I want to start this with my viewpoint, because the way I see things is different to, say, how people like Juan or El Jefe or people like Viper, like they see things much differently than I do. So I feel like it's only fair that we do, I'd say throughout this year, is basically do this style of episode, but with different people, and seeing how do they view it, or what specific smartphone company do they want to focus on, or what piece of technology do they want to focus on in the smartphone space. And I think that's very important. So what has really changed since the last time we did this episode? I can easily label it as the rise of the foldable smartphone, the removal of a lot of essential features from smartphones, and the confusing marketing of what is considered a professional tool. Because, as I mentioned, these things are important. These things have become an integral part of people's workflows. The smartphone has, whether you believe me or not, because for a lot of people, it's their only computer. And these phones, especially modern smartphones, are able to do a lot of things. They are. That's just the cold, hard reality, is they're able to do so much processing and so much work on these things that you can edit videos, you can do documents, you can send text, you can call people. You obviously can access your social media to connect to other people. Like, there's many things that you can do with these smartphones. And it just feels like, hey, I don't think we're really using these things to their fullest potential, which I think a lot of the average users really aren't. A lot of the average users just really need something with a good camera, can take calls, can send messages, and just work with no issues, or at least minimal issues. And that is a change that I've noticed that you see in companies specifically, either marketing things as Pro or Ultra or whatever they want to call their top tier smartphones. And we see that they label these things as professional tools to be used by creators or anybody as a professional tool. But I've noticed as time has gone on that seems to be a little bit blurred, because we talk about smartphones being professional tools, yet we keep removing features from them. But when you think of a professional tool doesn't limit you. It allows you to be limitless. It allows you to create. It allows you to do what you want to do. So it gives you everything possible in a set parameter, of course. But as we've been seeing with the iPhone 12 Pros, specifically the iPhones right now, and now currently the upcoming Samsung Galaxy S21 line, we see a lot of removal of nice things to have. Like, Samsung removed the micro SD card. And I know people are justifying it like, well, it's slower storage, so do you really care? And it's like, well, yes, we still do, because you're able to store photos, you're able to store downloaded music on there, you're able to do much more with that expandable storage. Because yes, well, I do agree that smartphones have gotten faster internal storage. That doesn't mean that we should limit these creative tools to rely heavily just on that internal storage, because maybe you want to swap out this SIM card, or you want to swap out this SD card, and you want to have, say, 8K video on this one and then stuff on this one. And like, you know what I mean, is not having everything limited to just one space. And I also understand that, yes, companies are starting to push their cloud services. You know, Samsung is obviously pushing OneDrive because they're partnered with Microsoft. And, well, you know, Google has Google Drive, Google Photos, and then Apple also has, you know, the iCloud. So they definitely want you to, you know, go in that direction to buy more cloud storage. But a lot of people like actually having, you know, their own storage. They like being able to store their own devices, their own memories. Because for a lot of people, especially as we've noticed with the smartphone space, is cameras have gotten really, really good. That's just the cold hard reality, is they've gotten that good. Like, my Pixel 5 can take amazing photos. The Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, even though yes, it has autofocusing issues, it can take great photos. The new iPhones take great photos. They also all take great video. Granted, we can all agree that the iPhone takes a little bit better video. That doesn't mean that it's the best video device, because options like the LG V60 are much better due to having much more control or actual pro control of the video settings. Same thing with the Sony phones, and etc. and etc. And it just feels like that we keep labeling these things as pro tools, yet we seem to be confusing it by taking away features that would be appreciated from a pro user, like expandable storage or having a charger in the box. Because I still think a lot of people seem to get on my grill about this, but you cannot just assume that everybody has a older charger. That is I get it. Apple did it for the environment and things like that. I still think that's bull honky, but you cannot just assume that everyone should have this type of charger. Like, it's ludicrous. I know people will say, Josh, isn't that a bit ridiculous? No, that's fair, because you cannot assume that. There's people that might be like, hey, this is my very first smartphone and I don't have a charger for it. What the F? You know, like, they're upset, or they had a charger and it broke. That's why they bought a new phone, so they get another charger with it. So like, oh, I don't have to worry because now I have a charger for a new charger. And I still think that it's very dumb that we keep trying to justify the removal of essential things from our smartphones. Granted, yes, I get it. Some people say, Josh, well, Apple hasn't had a micro SD card. And that's fair. I will give you that. I still think they probably should have, but Apple didn't. However, the fact that Samsung did, and for a long period of time, even last year, the Note 20 Ultra being the last phone that has a micro SD card slot, I still think that's kind of crappy, if I'm being honest with you guys. That we're taking away and we're justifying, like, essentially people are justifying companies taking away features from you. And the same thing, people can say how another benefit, in my opinion, one benefit that I see with the smartphone space right now is the fact of reduced pricing. And I get it. That's why a lot of these companies are doing these changes. They're making these compromises to reduce pricing. However, I don't think that we can just use the smokescreen of reduced pricing to justify removing essential features. I get it. A lot of people might not use the micro SD card expansion. That's okay. But I feel like a lot of people, as even Juan has stated before on a podcast, even in a recent video too, that a lot of people probably don't even know they had it until you tell them. They're like, hey, do you know that you can expand the storage of your smartphone for a fraction of the cost of what the manufacturer is charging you? Like, that's ludicrous. Like, a lot of people would be like, yo, what the F? Like that's cool. I want that. But the fact that now Samsung is taking away those features, and now other companies could also be taking away that feature, it just makes you think like, hey, where are we really going with this pro marketing? Are we really actually making pro tools, or are we just trying to justify price reductions by taking away features that are essential to what would be for a pro user? And as I've also mentioned, the rise of the foldable smartphone is also a thing happening. Like, smartphones have just seemed to become more and more boring every year. Like, new slab of glass, new paint, more cameras, new software features, and nothing really innovative. While the foldable space is definitely getting better. Does it mean it's perfect? No, it's not. But it's still getting better. And I think that's something that a lot of people need to realize, is the foldable smartphone space is getting better as time goes on. Do I still think it's the future? No, I still think it's a pretty stupid idea, but I get it. There's a lot of people that like it. And given the rate Samsung's going this year, I wouldn't be surprised if the Note line doesn't happen. In exchange, we end up getting a new foldable phone that combines the Note and the Galaxy Fold to get the true, productivity tool that Samsung wants. That's for the high-end user. That's going to be expensive as all balls. And that's just a cold, hard reality. That's what my prediction. I think that's what's going to happen. Is I think the Note line is dead because of the S21 Ultra having S Pen support and having, two different S Pens, the regular and then a Pro version or Plus. And I honestly think the Note line could be dead. I think they'll probably just focus everything on the Fold as the big phone at the end of the year, which I think it's fair. Like, people like it, but I don't think everyone's gonna buy it. But in my opinion, it's just very interesting seeing how the foldable smartphone space has expanded. The Galaxy Fold 2 is a very popular phone. The Galaxy Z Flip and then their 5G variants have been all very popular. But we've also had some popular phones pop up, like the reduced price phones, like the Samsung S20 FE, a very good phone for $700. The Pixel 5, a very good phone for $700. The Pixel 4a 5G and 4a, both incredible phones for under $500. Incredible phones, to be honest. They really are. They're really great phones. And then you have like the iPhone 12, the 12 mini, the 12 Pro, and the 12 Pro Max. Yes, I still agree that, base storage, should be fixed, but, they're working on it. The Pros, they did it right. The Pros, the fact that they started at 128 was great. But if you're going to be pushing all these camera features and everything, I think you should have made the base a little bit higher, especially because you want people to use these things as pro video tools. And then you had like the OnePlus 8, the OnePlus 8T. You had the OnePlus 8 Pro, which is a great phone. The LG V60, as I mentioned before, the new Sony flagship, that's name I currently forget because it's literally not on the tip of my tongue. But you've seen all these changes, all these new smartphones, and yet a lot of people still feel like the smartphone space has just become very boring, which I don't blame them. It just feels very stale. It just doesn't feel like we're really getting a lot of innovation. And that's what a lot of people were worried about like in 2019 when we first did this episode, which was the smartphone space has definitely plateaued. It's definitely hit a point where innovation just seems like little refreshes here and there. Like the upcoming iPhone 13, we're probably just going to see a smaller notch in 120 hertz. And rumors are saying we're not really going to get that big of a camera upgrade. Like it's just going to be the same cameras, just new software features. The Pixel 5 has been using the same sensor since the first Pixel, and it's just been software features that have been updated over time. Same thing with Samsung, like the S21 and S21 Plus use the same cameras from the S20, and that's okay because they're great cameras either way. Just little software features to update them. And the Ultra obviously gets new camera sensors, and so that's the big benefit, is that companies seem to be pushing the Pro or the Pro Max or Ultra or whatever you want to call the big like flagship phone. They're obviously getting big camera upgrades, which that's what the iPhone 12 Pro Max did, was it got a new main sensor with IBIS installed, or OIS, or whatever you want to call it, because it can be IBIS, it can be OIS, like you can call it whatever you want, whichever one you prefer. But that is the reality that we live in, is that the smartphone space just feels boring because these phones have become so good that it's very hard to differentiate what do you really want. And this is where things come down to you really being an informed buyer and saying, okay, what best suits my use case? Do I want a headphone jack? Do I want dual screen capabilities? Then I should probably get an LG V60. Like, yes, 1080p display, however, great battery life, dual screen display options, headphone jack, one of the best headphone jacks you can get, might I add. Do you want big productivity tools? The S21 could be a big option for you, because specifically the Ultra with the S Pen support and everything like that, like the new cameras, the big display, big battery, and also the 12 Pro Max too. The 12 Pro Max is a great photo and video camera as well. Granted, if you like being in the Apple ecosystem, then it would be a great option for you, especially if you take everything and you upload it to Final Cut Pro anyways. I think it'd be a great option because it's easy to move files back and forth anyways. But I think it's just, the smartphone space is just in a weird spot right now. Like, yes, sales are on the decline. Samsung obviously trying to get as many sales as they possibly can. That's why the S21 launched so early this year. Like, be honest, it's actually going to launch the date after my birthday. And it's funny because I'm actually getting an S21. Like, I got it for like $100 because of a trade-in, and I can explain that a whole different time. But it's a very interesting case that we're in, where the smartphone space just feels kind of boring. Like, I don't really care about it, and that's weird to say as somebody that covers technology, business in the video game industry, that it feels boring to talk about the smartphone space. Like, it feels boring to talk about phones but they're just new pieces of glass with new cameras, minor software updates, and a spec bump. Like, that's it. are we really pushing the boundaries on what we can do with these things? Like, are you doing anything different that justifies getting a new phone every year? And the reality is, for a lot of people, the answer is no. That's just the cold hard reality. Is a lot of people, it doesn't make much sense to upgrade every year, because are you really changing what you're doing with your phone? If the answer is no, then you should probably reevaluate what you're doing, because the whole point of getting another phone is, are you going to do anything differently? What are you going to do differently? If you're just going to do the same thing, just keep the phone you just have, because it doesn't make sense. Like, people that have the 12 Pro Max, a lot of people have told me that yes, when they get the 120 hertz display and stuff like that on the iPhone 13, that yeah, they're going to switch over. And I'm like, why? Like, besides like worse battery life, like, are you really doing anything that justifies the 120 hertz? And I know some people say, Josh, once you experience it, you'll never go back. And I know how it feels, because I had an S20 Ultra. I'm about to get an S21, and I have a Pixel 5. I know what a higher refresh rate feels like and what it looks like. And I can tell you, I had my S20 Ultra. I did a couple days with 1080p 120 and then 1440p 60. I could care less that I didn't have the 120. I'm just being honest with you. So in my opinion, it's going to be very interesting seeing how things turn out. Granted, like I said, this is just my viewpoint on the matter, because everybody has a different perspective on it. And I think it's only fair that we open this conversation up to other creators and see, hey, how do you guys view the situation? Do you have a different input? Do you not agree with something? Like, have a civil conversation and just talk about it, because I feel like it's important, since like I said, these pieces of technology are part of our everyday lives now. So it's only fair that we try to get as informed as we possibly can in the conversation about these things, because we should be informed. That's just the reality of it. We should be informed in this conversation, because this is something that affects our everyday lives. So that's why I'm leaving this episode very open-ended, so that I can expand it with other creators and just have other people come on the show and talk about it. Like, how do you guys view the matter? You know, let me know in the comment section down below in the YouTube video, or if you're listening to the audio version, you can obviously hit me up on my social medias and just let me know how you guys feel. But thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for, putting up with me and listening to today's episode. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you for downloading it. Thank you for sharing it. Thank you guys for everything you do. Obviously, if you're watching the YouTube version, you guys can click the dislike button. If you like the episode, you didn't like the episode, you can obviously click the subscribe button, or you can click the notification bell, or probably both, because pretty helpful. But I thank you guys for everything. I thank you guys for your love and support. It really does mean a lot to me. I hope you guys continue to be patient with me, because like I said, with school starting up, especially the day this episode goes live, school starts up and I'm going to be pretty busy with school. But I thank you guys for everything. I love you guys to death. Please continue to be safe. Please continue to take care of everyone around you, because the world is still weird out there. So please be safe. Don't do anything dumb. Try to be respectful of all the people around you, because that's what we really should be doing, guys. Is just trying to be as respectful as we can be to everyone around us. Try to be courteous, try to be kind, try to be loving, compassionate, filled with empathy rather than sympathy. But I thank you guys for everything. Please continue to be safe, and I will see you guys soon. Bye, guys. Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.